All right. Thank you so much for tuning into the Church Dropout channel. My name is Alan. This is another edition of It Is What It Is. If you have not already, please like, rate, and subscribe wherever you're listening to this at. And then also drop a comment below. Keep the conversation moving forward. I want to start by asking a question. There is well, first, I guess, let me explain where the question comes from. There's a ton of videos online happening, at least on the YouTube, space of Keon Henderson and his statement about, the blessing or the non-blessing of helping the poor, that helping the poor doesn't bless you. You know what I mean? And it's an asinine statement. It does not make sense. It is not the gospel. It is not Christian, to be honest with you, to make such a statement. It's a foolish statement to make, and that's just being honest and honest about it. But yeah, this opinion has been stated in many different ways by many different people online. But in saying that, I had this thought as I was looking at a tweet by Allie Beth Stucky on her position towards undocumented immigrants and how she used Matthew 25 as a scapegoat to say that Matthew 25 is not talking about undocumented immigrants. It's not, they are not the least of these that Jesus is explaining in that text, even though they are the marginalized. And I just, started thinking about this and so I want to ask a question and then just have a few words on this. Honestly, what is the difference? What is the difference between what Keon Henderson said and what Allie Beth Stucky said in terms of how God expects his body to help the marginalized? What's the difference? What's the difference? One is rooted in prosperity gospel, but the other one is rooted in a nationalistic gospel. And in my opinion, both are fruit from the same tree. What is the difference? Both of these are missing what Christ would have his church do in terms of, meeting the marginalized where they are, to, love those who are persecuted, to come alongside of those who would be considered the least of these. This is a command that Christ gives to his body, his church. So much so that Christ says, when you're doing this type of work, you are in fact doing it unto Jesus. And although these viewpoints differ in terms of their outcome, I think it, comes from the same place. And, again, I really believe that what we're seeing here, the reason why I say it's the fruit of the same tree is really because this is the American gospel. This is the American gospel. And the American gospel is rooted in privilege. It's rooted in privilege. We can say such things here, right? The reason why Keon Henderson can say there is no blessing for you in helping the poor is because he lives in a place that worships prosperity. He lives in a place that worships privilege, that sees its privilege as a blessing. And the reason why we can say that, people who are marginalized fall outside of Jesus's words are not in sight here for Christians to move towards. Right. Now, again, I'm not talking about criminals and all of that type stuff, because the vast majority of the individuals who are here are not that. OK, and when we frame the argument in that way, this is the problem. But the reality is it's fruit from the same tree. And I think this is the problem with American Christianity. And this is why I've said this in the past, say it again, that American Christianity is more American than Christian. It's more American than Christian. You know, our American values are driving our biblical values and not the other way around, right? We are subjugating God's words or even his commands for his community. We are abdicating that and giving that to the government to fulfill. So we vote, the government does, we don't do. You know what I mean? And again, let me say this too, because I'm not saying that, you know, Allie, Beth, Stucky, or anybody who's on that side, like, I'm not saying that they wouldn't help, undocumented, immigrants. However, I can only go by how these things are spoken about from a public perspective, right? And the way individuals are talked about and the way those individuals are portrayed, it's not one of love and compassion, right? And at the root of both of these is that it is the absence of love and compassion. And what's interesting is I just think that this is a fundamental part of the gospel that we're overlooking here, right? That no matter who we are or what we've done, whether we were worried about God or not, Christ died for us. And in fact, the scripture says, while we were still enemies of God, he died for us. Our status didn't matter when he met us. So I just don't get it. If I could just be honest with you, I don't even have to go through all of that. I just don't understand how these two things are different. Both of these are amiss, and they are the gospel that's being established on false principles. And again, even though, some are going to say, well, Keon Henderson is a false teacher, and some of the things that he talks about are not gospel centered, and Allie, Beth understands the essentials and, teaches a right gospel. It neither one matters until that gospel is actually applied to the world that we live in. And as we see, these two are fruit from the same tree. These two ideas are fruit from the same tree. Anytime our politics, get in the way of how we serve people, it's a problem. And anytime our prosperity and our ideas of privilege, because we live in a prosperous nation and we have the ability to earn for ourselves, and to, anytime money and that type of stuff gets in between our gospel call, we have a problem. And again, both of these are fruit from the same tree. So anyway, just some thoughts. I would love to hear what you guys have to say. To be honest, I don't see a difference between the two, but I'm sure you'll tell me if you disagree. And also let me know if you agree. Comments and all of that stuff is helpful for the algorithm. So please drop a comment below, keep the conversation moving forward. And then also, like and subscribe. We really appreciate you tuning in. Thank you so much. God bless.